Springfield is not a normal place. It looks like a town in the United States, but it follows rules that defy logic. This is what we call the Reality Distortion Field. At the center of this field is Homer Simpson. In the 1997 episode titled Homer's Enemy, the show introduced us to Frank Grimes. He was a man who lived a life of struggle. He was abandoned at the age of 4. He worked as a delivery boy for a toy store. Then, he was injured in a silo explosion on his 18th birthday. He had to learn to hear and feel again. He spent his nights studying nuclear physics by mail. He was the definition of the American dream. But here's the catch. When he arrived at the nuclear plant, he met a man who stood for everything he hated. Homer is a safety inspector who does not know what a nuclear pylon is. He spends his days eating donuts and napping. In the real world, a man like that would be gone in a week. But in Springfield, he has a mansion with 4 bedrooms. He has 2 cars. He's been to outer space. He's won a Grammy Award. He's even met the president. To Frank Grimes, this was a slap in the face. He lived in a one-room apartment that was located above a bowling alley and below another bowling alley. It was only about 400 square feet. He had to work 2 jobs just to survive. This is where the horror begins. Homer is not just lucky. He is a force that ruins anyone who tries to be normal. When Grimes saved Homer from drinking a jar of acid, Homer did not thank him. Instead, the boss yelled at Grimes and cut his pay. The crazy part is that no one else saw the problem. Lenny and Carl just told him to relax. They were used to the madness. But Grimes was a real person in a cartoon world. He was looking at a man who should have been in jail or worse. Yet, he was thriving. This is the first sign that Homer is the true antagonist. He does not mean to hurt people, but his existence is a poison to anyone with merit. And that's putting it lightly. He is a man who has held over 500 different jobs, including being a deep-sea fisherman and an astronaut, despite having the mental capacity of a child. Frank Grimes represents the viewer. He asks the questions we all wonder about. How does this man afford a lobster dinner? Why does he have a bowling trophy on his wall when he is clearly unfit for society? The most shocking part is that the more Grimes tried to point out the truth, the more the world turned against him. He was being gaslit by the entire community. They made him feel like he was the crazy one for wanting safety and order. This is a classic tactic used by those who want to keep a broken system running. Homer is the face of that broken system. He is the golden boy of a town that has forgotten what it means to work hard. Grimes was a nuclear physicist with a real degree, but he was forced to work under a man who uses a crayon to sign his name. This is not just bad writing. It is a deep look at how reality bends to protect the main character at the expense of everyone else. The struggle for sanity was just beginning as the pressure started to mount in the plant. The breaking point came when Homer entered a nuclear power plant design contest. This contest was clearly meant for children. Grimes thought this would finally be the moment Homer was exposed. He encouraged Homer to enter, thinking the judges would see his lack of skill. But get this. Homer entered a model that was basically a doghouse with some cooling towers on top. It was the most basic thing you could imagine. However, because this is Springfield, the judges were amazed. Mr. Burns gave Homer the first prize trophy. Grimes stood there in total shock. He had spent his whole life being professional, and here was a man winning an award for a child's toy. It's not that simple though. This victory was the final nail in the coffin for Frank Grimes. He realized that in this world, logic had no power. He saw that Homer would always win, no matter how much he failed. This led to a total psychological collapse. He began to run through the plant acting like Homer. He ate donuts with his hands behind his back. He peed on the floor. He treated everything like a big joke because that was the only way to survive in Homer's world. He was trying to prove that anyone could be Homer Simpson if they just gave up their soul. But the air was heavy with the scent of a man who had lost his mind. He decided to show the world just how much protection the town idiot really had. In his final moments, Grimes wanted to prove that Homer was untouchable. He went up to a set of high voltage wires. These wires carried thousands of volts of electricity. He shouted at everyone that he did not need safety gloves because he was Homer Simpson. He believed that the rules of the world would protect him just like they protected Homer. But he was wrong. Grimes was a real person, and real people cannot survive thousands of volts. When he grabbed those wires, his journey came to a sudden and tragic end. This was the most graphic moment in the history of the show. It was a wake-up call. It showed that the cartoon world of Springfield is a dangerous place for anyone who is not part of the main cast. Homer stood there and watched it happen. He didn't try to stop him. He didn't even understand the gravity of the situation. To Homer, it was just another weird day at the office. This is why the theory holds so much weight. Homer is a passive force that leads people to their doom. He breaks their minds until they take risks they can never come back from. The tragedy did not end with the incident at the plant, as the town had one last insult for the fallen man. The final scene of the episode is the most disturbing of all. We see the funeral of Frank Grimes. It should be a solemn moment. A man has lost his life because he tried to be a good worker. But as the coffin is lowered into the ground, Homer is asleep in the front row. He mumbles in his sleep, asking his wife to change the channel. The crazy part is that everyone at the funeral starts to laugh. Even the priest laughs. They completely forgot that a human being was gone. They chose the jokes of Homer over the life of a hard-working man. This proves that Springfield is a nightmare. It is a place where empathy is dead and the only thing that matters is the status quo, the main character. Frank Grimes was erased from history. He was a man who clawed his way up from nothing, only to be turned into a punchline at his own funeral. This is the darkest ending the show has ever produced. It leaves the viewers wondering if they are also part of the problem for laughing at Homer all these years. Are we missing the key details? The thing is, we have to ask ourselves if we are cheering for a man who is actually a monster. We've spent years loving a character who is a danger to everyone around him, but the evidence is now clear. Is Homer Simpson actually the greatest villain in television history, or is he just a lucky man in a very cruel world? What do you think about the fate of Frank Grimes? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more dark theories.